We're here with Don Johnson, owner, founder, and chief investigator of Trace Investigations. Don, thanks for your time.
No problem, Michael. Glad to help.
I've got to get the personal caveat out of the way. You did once make the mistake of employing me, so your bias is noted, but hopefully that won't color the truth and honesty of your answers.
Well, you've recovered nicely, Michael.
Thank you. You're one of the few PIs I know who also has a real affinity for reading PI fiction. And so I was wondering if you could both name a few favorite writers in that genre and talk a little bit about whether you became a fan of the books after you were in the business or if that had always been an interest.
Well, let's start with what I call the masters: Raymond Chandler, Dashiell Hammett, Ross MacDonald. I've read a lot of crime fiction over the years, including Edgar Allan Poe, and even Robert Parker's Spencer series, and a few other writers over the years. A lot of crime fiction.
Were you reading in that genre before you went into the business? So has the detective world been a lifelong appeal to you, or?
No. I think I've read more PI fiction since I've been in the business than before. I used to read a lot of Western novels, but if you look at plot devices in some of the PI books and some of the Western novels, you're going to find the similarities.
Not too much far apart.
Yeah.
Elmore Leonard's done both pretty well.
Exactly. So, but when I was considering getting into this business years ago, I did a lot of research on the profession itself, not the crime fiction part, but picked up. I just enjoyed reading it, and it was relaxing and entertaining because, as you know, a lot of our work is just routine, day to day. The real challenges are always there, which makes it interesting. But it's fun to read good crime fiction, good PI fiction.
I remember early on you told me that writing was a paramount skill, whether I was going to be a career PI or not, but you were always stressing the importance of writing. Why do you think that is so important to your profession, your craft?
Well, the work product that we present to our clients, who are mostly attorneys, is a written report. That is usually your work product. Now, there may be video attached to it, or there may be photographs attached to it, but the written report, the investigation report, is the most important thing that you produce and give to that client. So that's why I always emphasize to you and others that I've worked with, and even in seminars I've given, you learn to write the reports.
You've read Last Words, so I've got to get your opinion. There seemed to be some friction between PI Marcus Novak and his PI mentor at times. I was curious, who did you tend to agree with in those scenes?
Well, I'm a Libra. I can go either way. I could see each side of that. It's like in every story, every case, every incident has three sides: what he said, what she said, and what really happened. So I could understand the boss, so to speak. I forget
Jeff London. Yeah.
Jeff. I forget. Okay, Jeff. I could understand what Jeff's doing. He has to protect the company. That survives. I mean, it was a unique firm, they were a niche firm. So he had to protect the integrity of the firm, and yet Mark Novak is like a lot of good private investigators. He is relentless. You have to be relentless. And if you're on the scent, so to speak, and someone tries to pull you off that scent for whatever reason, it's going to rub you the wrong way.
Right.
So, and I could understand some of Jeff's points, but then, I found myself saying, go for it, Mark.
That's good to hear. I was afraid you might just side with London at all times.
Oh, no, that doesn't make for good writing, Mike. It doesn't make for a good story, Mike.
So let's move Mark into the real world. Did you hire Marcus Novak at Trace?
Oh, boy. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. Weren't there some things in his past, though? I mean, I don't remember.
You'd want to do diligence on
I'd want due diligence on him. I wouldn't necessarily not hire him because, number one, we do criminal defense work here, as you know, and He was the criminal defense investigator. That's what that company.
And relentless, as you said.
And relentless, and they did that difficult criminal defense work too, as I recall, capital crimes, very very difficult cases, and you have to work, you have to be very diligent working those cases. You just never know.
You're leading in perfectly to the next question I had, which was Novak's fictional firm, Innocence Incorporated. It's a pro bono death penalty defense outfit. And when I was here, we worked for a similar group that resulted in a successful exoneration of someone who'd been in prison for more than a decade. And I just wanted to get some of your thoughts on what that was like for you as a PI to work a case with those stakes.
I think that was not the first one I'd worked, but the first one that gave us a successful outcome like that, where the defendant was innocent.
Right.
And you're not just trying to mitigate a death penalty to life without parole. You're actually trying to establish
to free
innocence,
from death,
reasonable
yes.
doubt. You're looking for that reasonable doubt. That's very satisfying when you're successful. And as you know, that was a difficult case, which had what, 3 venues before the final trial? Yeah. So it was a challenging case. It had been worked before by other investigators. They did good work, but the circumstances were different by the time we got involved in it. So very challenging, very very rewarding when it works out.
Yeah, emotionally, where would you rank that on your emotional reward scale of cases?
Oh, it's high. It was one of the up to that time the highest, and we've had a couple successes since then on a smaller scale, less high profile cases, but that was right up there.
Yeah,
it may not be duplicated in my career before I retire.
All right. Talking about the way things have evolved in the profession, we were just talking earlier about technology. You mentioned the minute you buy a camera, it's out of date, right? You're already a computer or anything. Can't really stay ahead of that curve at all times, but it is an important component of the business. But I'm curious, what essential skills you think have not changed and will never change? What will a good PI still need to bring to the table in 2025 that he needed in 1975?
The ability to talk to people in a friendly and unthreatening way. The ability to interact with people, not with your phone, not sitting in front of your computer all day, but your ability to go out into the street and knock on a door and engage a person in conversation and convince them to share information with you that they may have.
Right.
We're not police officers. We don't got no stinking badges. We have no arrest powers.
Right.
We rely on our ability to talk to people, to understand people. That skill will never go away. I mean, it will always be needed. I mean, you don't see it all the time in some investigators. Some police officers don't transition well to the private sector. Others do.
Used to having that authority.
They're used to having the authority. They've been a cop for 20 to 30 years, and they get their PI license, and it's difficult to transit. Number one, they've never run a business before, and they've always had a badge and a gun. But on the other side of that, many of them do very well. And you and I both know former police officers, former federal agents, were fantastic private investigators, fantastic. But they had those same skills when they were police officers.
Yeah, and they managed to transition.
They knew how to engage people in conversations without threatening them. And that's not the norm. I don't believe that's the norm in law enforcement, but you see it. You see those who have the trouble transitioning.
If you were Marcus Novak's mentor, after the events of last words, what advice would you give him?
Be careful about crawling into those caves, Mark.
So I figured that was going to come up high on the list. All right, thank you so much, Don, both for your time and also for all you've done for me. It's
my pleasure, Michael.
Hugely important and influential. So
my pleasure. I'm glad you're staying interested in the business, and I'm your biggest cheerleader, so to speak, for your writing career too.
Well,
keep it up, buddy. Keep it up.
I appreciate it.